and welcome along to the first proper episode, shall we say, of the Across the Forth Football Podcast. You join us live from our brand new studio. It's just university, but we're on Merchandise campus and we're ready to go and get this show properly on the road. I am your host, Aaron Fraser. I am once again joined by Logan and Stephen to talk about the weird and wonderful world of Scottish football, and if we have time, branch out to a bit of the Premier League as well. Gents, we've finally got some proper mics and it's no longer a dodgy Zoom call. How are we feeling on this fine afternoon?
Yeah, much better. I think it's going to be hopefully more often as well with the episodes, so much better sound quality as well, so, and we're in person as well, so it should be good. Hopefully consistent uploads and consistent good football to talk about.
Yeah, I heard somebody's audio and video quality wasn't too good last time, so hopefully it's a wee bit better this time.
I wonder who we can blame for that.
If in doubt, blame David Tanner. Right, let's get this properly underway. Going to talk a little bit about the Premiership action from a few days ago. Celtic would win comfortably at the Spaghetti Had, seeing off Livingston despite a horrific red card for Joe Hart. If you've not seen it, to quote Sir Alex Ferguson, he could have been killed. Well, maybe not that bad, but he certainly wiped him out and it was a very deserved red card. But despite that, and Rio Hatate's best efforts to have his own penalty saved, it still squeezed past the Livy goalkeeper, and Celtic cleared a comfortable 3 points on the road. Gents, if you tuned in, what were your thoughts on that game of football?
Yeah, I thought the early goal clearly helped Celtic. I thought that when they got the red card, I thought maybe Livy would have came back into it, but Celtic were comfortable in the end and deserved their 3 points. I mean, the red card is a shocker. It does completely wipe him out and worthy of a red card. Joe Hart's had his critics over the past few weeks, especially with that goal in Feyenoord. Sorry. He did make up for it with a penalty save, you could argue, but he has had his critics and that's not going to help his case at all.
Yeah, I wasn't able to tune into the game, but I have heard with like an hour left of the game, you're thinking it might be a bit tricky for Celtic here, and they just don't look challenged, really, do they?
Not at all. I can see them romping to the league this season, especially since their nearest challengers, Rangers, they're not doing too good at the moment either. Despite winning against Motherwell, they were booed off the park, which I suppose says it all about how much credit in the bank Michael Beale has with the Ibrox faithful just now. Rangers, it's a strange one because when Beale came back, he was getting heralded, he's the brains behind 55, he's going to bring us so much success, and Celtic are once again looking to run away with it, and if I'm honest, I just can't see Celtic getting caught. Gents, your thoughts? I know we discussed this briefly in the pilot episode, but surely it's Celtic's league to lose at this point, and it's already, only a few games in, surely it's theirs.
I think it's going to be difficult for Rangers. I was slightly impressed with them against Real Betis on Thursday night, but it's just they're not convincing at all. I think the Rangers fans are not taking to Beale or his playing style at all. He's almost changing the attack every week, and I just don't think that they've got that ruthlessness to what they used to have. And I think that for Beale to keep his job and for Rangers fans to almost not forgive him, but to take him back and be confident about him being Rangers manager, is to probably go on and lift the League Cup now that Celtic are out, and then probably reach the knockout stages of the Europa League and then consistently battle with Celtic. It's going to take a lot, I think, because Rangers fans clearly not happy, and they were not really convincing at all against Motherwell on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I said in the first episode, just over a month's passed now since that Rangers would win the league. I think their new signings haven't really hit the ground running as I expected them to. I still think it's very early. I think I understand their frustration because it's such a big club and they're not wanting to accept the tiniest bit of mediocrity. But in a couple months' time, Rangers could go on a winning run and they'll be loving them again. So I think they just need to hold tight for a little bit. And if it keeps getting worse, then obviously I think the board will have a decision to make.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world either. They're not a million miles away either. I mean, they've obviously got a good start in the Europa League, still in the League Cup as we mentioned.
Exactly. They're winning games. They're still picking up points.
The football just doesn't seem convincing as what Beale kind of we expected of Beale, because we obviously seen what he could do under Gerrard. And
Although how much of that was actually Michael Beale, let's be honest. Like,
Who knows?
folk can say, oh, he was the brains behind it all along. Gerrard was the manager. It was Gerrard's playing style.
It's just optimism, isn't it? Like when they see his name linked, it's like, oh, so what can we think about? It's the best bit. Oh, it was him that did it all last time, so he's going to be this great manager when he comes here. It's like, just steady on.
I do think Rangers fans have got this really bad tendency to like hype up the tiniest, smallest thing. Like, oh, he's going to be the saviour. That they put such massive expectations on managers and or players as soon as they're in the door. They've barely had their signing photos taken, and oh, they're the messiah. And if things don't go perfect right away, then it's immediately panic stations. Like, I understand they are, let's face it, the second favourite for the league every year for a while, but they're expecting all the time to challenge Celtic, to really go for it. But like, remember when Celtic started pretty terribly under Ange Postecoglou, losing 2-1 to Hearts, and thank you very much. No, I've still not stopped going on about that. But Celtic started horribly, and they had like a genuine rebuild job. Like, they were starting like Scott Bain and Tony Ralston in the first game of the season. Says it all, really. But Celtic fans had patience. They waited for Postecoglou to bed in, got behind him, and eventually they reaped the rewards. They won the treble about a year later. Rangers fans just don't seem, because they've got this like rabid desire to be on top right away with almost no sense of perspective. It crashes and burns every time, but that's only because of the unrealistic expectations they place on every new arrival all the time. It's just so counterproductive to me.
I'm going to give Rangers a bit of credit defensively. They are keeping clean sheets quite consistently as well. That Celtic Old Firm game, they did concede that Kyogo goal. It was a brilliant finish, and just one slight mistake at the back. But in games like that, you can't make mistakes. But yeah, I think, as we said, it's not the end of the world for Rangers. I just think they need to get a consistent front three on form, and they're just not clinical at the front, and it needs to improve quickly, because Celtic will end up running away if they're not getting wins, specifically coming up in the next Old Firm in probably a couple of months' time.
The difference is as well, I think, with Ange at the start of his tenure at Celtic, he's a personality. Like, I think the Celtic fans really bought into him as well. So they weren't more given the time because of rebuild, but they actually believed in what he was saying. And I think maybe Michael Beale, he's been manager at one club before Rangers.
QPR.
Yeah, was he even doing that great when he left?
He got offered the Wolves job.
Yeah. But it's like, I think he just doesn't. If I had to think of a personality, you need a personality in a manager's job, don't you?
You just look at him and it's like, he's just like your man for down the street. Like Postecoglou, as much as I resented him for his success at Celtic, and now he's flying at Spurs, fair play to him, but you couldn't help but not like him.
Yeah.
Because Postecoglou, right from the start, was a likeable character. He bought into the philosophy of the club, whatever that means to whoever's concerned about it. But it's all the cliches. But he really he was I can imagine you could sit down for a pint with Postecoglou and have a fantastic night. But Michael Beale's definitely your man that sits in the corner with a Bellhaven best, not talking to anybody, just sat on Twitter. He just gives me that sort of vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah, some of the videos that have came out for Postecoglou since he's went to Spurs, I don't know if you've seen the fan forum that Spurs...
Right, mate.
I don't know if you've seen the fan forum that Spurs had the other day, but just even asking or the questions from the boy in the crowd and not singling him out, but letting him have his chance to have a question. It's just, he's a class act, and Celtic have lost a brilliant figure as manager, but Brendan Rodgers has obviously started well, despite some criticism from media and start in Europe against Feyenoord, but I think they'll cruise to the league title, I think, again.
The fact they won at Ibrox with that defence starting, I mean, it just tells you all you need to know.
To be fair, Scales has been superb,
Lager
I think.
Bielka as well.
Bielka, I'm a bit unsure.
He's still a new signing as
he
well.
He's played like he's on the Lager Bielkas, let's be honest.
Just a completely new defence, and I'm sure if any Celtic fan wanted to wake up in the morning of that day and they were like, right, who's going to be starting defence?
Liam Scales, get in there!
Caught that back four, and they've obviously been forced to with injuries and issues, and they might struggle in their next European game because Lager Bielka's missing. But the fact they that Rodgers managed to put them and trusted them in the back line at Ibrox, and they came away well win. I think tells you all you need to know about them.
Yeah, you need to remember Celtic's injuries as well. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who's out, but Carter Vickers is an obvious one.
They've got they don't even have two centre backs available for the European game
unless
you put Awata, who's a holding midfielder, because Lagerbielke is suspended, Carter Vickers is suspended. Obviously, Starfelt left in the summer.
Is it Narocki that they came in as well? I think he's injured as well.
Yeah,
so
straight off the bat, I think it's a pretty bad injury that he got as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So despite their injury woes, Celtic are looking very good at the moment. As for Rangers, once again, it's going to be a typical work in progress shout for them for the next while. But speaking of underperforming teams, my own lot aren't looking too great just now. Heart of Midlothian, at the time of recording, we're set to play Kilmarnock in the League Cup quarter-final tonight. Winning that would certainly help the fans get back on side, but the Stephen Naismith experiment, shall we call it, it seems to be unravelling fairly quickly. We've seen it all before when Hearts appoint a rookie coach in Ian Cathro. That went well. And I hate to say it, but this appointment reeks of it. And to be honest, I loved Naismith as a Hearts player, one of my all-time favourites. And I thought he was going to really buy into it. And at the end of last season, the attacking football we played, we eventually limped over the line to fourth place at the expense of your lot, Stephen. Thank you very much. But it was looking promising, and we're thinking, give him the summer, see what he can do. And we've just regressed to the same old boring side-to-side football. Naismith can go on in the press about, we want to attack, we want this, we want that. When you watch Hearts, it's just stagnant. It's just like the football we were getting at the end of Nielsen's tenure. It's not exciting football. It's just going back to Hearts is reverting to type and just playing some just turgid stuff, to be honest. And there's been graffiti at Tynecastle today saying sack the board, Nielsen out, Budge out already. So it's
Nielsen out?
Not Nielsen, sorry. God, I'm not used to hearing folks say that. Aye, and Budge and the board are coming under fire for appointing him. A lot of fans on Twitter calling for the board to be sacked, for the foundation of Hearts to be questioned, for the management team to be emptied. It's all rosy at Tynecastle just now. I mean, obviously I'm kind of caught up in it because I follow mostly Hearts accounts on Twitter, but from an outsider's perspective, boys, what do you make of the current managerial situation at Hearts? And bear in mind, Kilmarnock's not going to be an easy tie. I was looking at some very depressing stats this morning. A League Cup game at Rugby Park has not been finished in 90 minutes for over 3 years now.
Oh my God.
Late night for you.
Tell me about it, and I'm working tomorrow. And Hearts have won something like 2 away games in 13. Our away record is shambolic.
It's a mess, isn't it? I think right from the start, the appointment was just... When you're looking at other managers and interview other managers, and it'll always come out in the press, fans will have their favourites. Fans will pick who they want, and I'm sure not every Hearts fan wanted Naismith to keep the job. I think you were impressed by the fact that you were playing attacking football, but you beat Ross County before the split.
He's only been manager for 2 weeks.
Exactly, that's what I mean. That was the joke that he got. I think it was just embarrassing. But were you embarrassed by it when the way it looked to everybody else? You're basically going, right, we're going to do this, but we can't do it because UEFA aren't going to allow us. But we're going to do it a couple of weeks after that, if that's okay.
The statement came out when we got knocked out of Europe off the Palk, and it was always the intention once we got knocked out of Europe to revert to how things were. So that's basically admitting made a mess of this, because Naismith he never had his coaching badges or some sort of accreditation you require to coach in Europe. So they had to put Frankie McAvoy out as a face to basically avoid getting a slap on the wrist. But I've seen folks say they'd rather take the European final. The absolute riddy it was appointing somebody as manager and switching them all about. It was just a bit of a calamity. When have you ever seen that?
Exactly.
Ever.
It was the fact everybody knew what they were doing. It wasn't like Frankie McAvoy was the manager, and you're like, he's come in and Naismith's working off him, or they're both kind of going for it. No, it was very obvious Naismith was the manager, and you just put a different title on him. It's just so stupid. You
know that chewing the fat scene where
yeah.
they're both copying each other? That is exactly what was going on at Hearts. It's just a mess. I'm glad they finally came out and just said, look, Stephen Naismith's the manager. This is what's going on. But it's to be fair, he's got a good result last week against Aberdeen.
Exactly.
Papered
over the cracks massively, in my opinion.
And St Mirren they've started brilliantly and they are a very good side.
Beat Hibs as well.
Yeah, so St Mirren, I mean, I think they'll be in the shout for the top 4 positions. We'll get onto them in a minute, but Hearts, they do need to. They've also got their injury problems as well. I think
When do we not?
Yeah, that's true. But I think having Boyce back and consistently fit will help throughout the course of the season.
He's been massively missed, Liam Boyce, because a lot of Hearts fans don't appreciate what he brings to the team. It's not just like he's a striker, he scores goals, he's a very good footballer, but his all-round play is brilliant. He drops deep to link up. It's no coincidence that when Liam Boyce done his ACL, Barry Mackay's form fell off a cliff, because Mackay and Boyce, they link up really well, and Boyce brings the best out of a lot of our attacking players. But Barry Mackay certainly suffered the most. He's also injured just now, but it was no coincidence that when Liam Boyce's creative prowess wasn't available, that his form nosedived along with a lot of our attackers. We struggle massively without Liam Boyce, and I think people really appreciated just how much he brings to the team when he was out injured. But it's so good to have him back. Obviously, scored against Aberdeen, first goal in over a year. Obviously, the first goal he got since coming back for his knee injury, so delighted for him. And having a fully fit Liam Boyce will be crucial to our aspirations to rescue this season. What an awful thing to be saying on the 26th of September.
Tell me about it, we've already went through it.
Who's more crucial, do you think, to the Hearts side, Boyce or Shankland?
Shankland, surely.
You can't look past Shankland's goal tally. Obviously,
From the penalty spot?
I was waiting for that one. No, look, Shankland's not been banging in as many goals this season, but again, you have to look at, if you watch it every week, you understand Shankland has been starved of service and he's been having to drop really, really deep to try and get on the ball and make something happen, which he's been playing out wide as well, and like from your talismanic centre forward, you don't want him like dropping back into midfield to try and start the play off. That's how sluggish it's been watching Hearts. Like, you've got your 20 goal a season striker try to create things and make them happen. His job's to put the ball in the net. Simple as. He needs to get the service.
Yeah, I think that whatever Hearts do, they need to play or find that proper system that can have them both in the starting 11. Whether Boyce plays deeper, Shankland plays deeper, I think they can both kind of. I think Boyce is better, like all round game. Shankland, he's a poacher. He loves to score goals, but I think that having Boyce back, as you mentioned, is crucial. So.
Yeah, it's not looking too great on the moon half at Edinburgh. However, things for Hibs are looking slightly up after the appointment of Montgomery as the manager. Obviously, Stephen's our resident Hy-Vee here. He'll be more qualified to talk about this, but results seem to have been improving. Vente scored a few goals here and there. Hibs fans seem to be pretty happy with how they're playing since getting rid of Mr. Hungry Men. We must look for our supper, Lee Johnson. I still can't believe that's a genuine quote, but your supper's been found now, Stephen. How's it been watching Montgomery ball at Easter Road?
Honestly, such a breath of fresh air. It's just, I think there's a real belief now around the support that everybody's buying into what he's saying. He's walked in, what he said he was going to do. He's already brought in, look at young Rory Whittaker, the youngest ever Hibs player to play. He said he was going to...
And how old is this Rory Whittaker?
He was 16 and 44 days or something.
God, that is depressing.
I know, exactly. That makes us very old.
Well, he doesn't look 16. I've seen a photo of him coming on and he does not look 16.
Like older or younger, you mean? Like, does he look like a genuine child, or is he like
he's
a unit?
He's huge,
tall,
yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So, someone who's 16 years of age could probably bench press me in his sleep and has already played a competitive SPFL game. Fantastic, I'll sleep well tonight.
Why are you thinking about 16-year-olds bench pressing you in your sleep?
Just such a smart player. Honestly, just watching him, he picks up so many good spaces. I think finally players are starting to get the ball into him. We're actually working off him, and just look at the second goal at the weekend. Brilliant bit of play to flick it to Venta, and I mean, he's just a top quality striker who I think also, I think Hibs fans right now having to try and actually appreciate how good he is, because I think some fans will go, he doesn't do much but he scores the goals, but it's not true. He gets back, he gets right into the other team, pressing them and finishing just top quality.
I think the Hibs managerial job recently has just been a dangerous place.
Poison chalice, certainly.
Yeah.
Think of that, you've got, but Jack Ross, who, let's be honest, shouldn't have been sacked when he was.
I think
Would you say?
in hindsight, looking back,
Certainly in
it
hindsight.
would have been. It was very harsh, but seeing the time and as a Hibs fan and watching them games, it was awful. The style of play, I think the fact in COVID was obviously his first full season. We got third, cup final, cup semi-final. I think you weren't that focused on the style of play.
Exactly.
You were just wanting to win. And when you come back into the stadium and you just see the team, just see if you score first, and you just sit in at home to teams like St Johnstone and Livingston, and that wasn't good enough. And
It's not playing football the Hibs way, is it?
yeah, exactly.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I loathe, not just like a Hibs thing, but I loathe that sort of thing. Like, oh, play football this way,
Yeah.
play football that way. Like, obviously, you go to football to be entertained. I understand that. But personally, obviously, like, within reason, like, I don't want to play kick and rush all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I had enough of that under bloody Craig Levein.
Get the ball in the box.
Yes. Play it long, Hearts.
Diags.
There's an old boy that sits next to me, and every single time, if Hearts even dare to pass the ball out from the back, he's, oh, just get it up the park, Hearts! Get it up! It's chronic. Like, I understand there's a fine line between, I don't care about the football style players want to win and entertainment. There's a fine line between that, I feel like. Obviously, you want to watch decent football, but there comes a point when you've got to think, like, are we winning games?
Exactly.
Yes, okay then.
But it's when, I think under Jack Ross as well, when he started not getting the results, it was fine. Like, you could tolerate it. I'd still think a lot of fans, after we got beat off Hearts in that semi-final, even then I think a lot of fans
Stop
lost.
smiling, Aaron.
You cannot see the massive grin that's went over my face when reminded of that game. Thank you very much,
I
Stephen.
think just the fact we got third that season, but we came out of it with nothing in the cups, out of 2 semi-finals and a final, I think the fans were really, really
when the
underwhelmed.
Saints go
Don't
marching in.
Yeah, I think Nick Montgomery's a breath of fresh air for Hibs at the moment. I watched a video that Hibs put out last night. It was like a manager cam, and it wasn't particularly Montgomery that I pointed out. It was, what's his assistant manager's name?
Raimundo.
I think it's him. He was speaking French to Ewan. Just little things like that, like that Ewan can kind of connect with, and
Fans love seeing that sort of stuff.
yeah.
Immediately though, like whatever he's been telling them, Hibs fans have been very frustrated because he's so good technically, but he holds on to the ball
Doesn't he
for
pass the
so
ball?
long, and his decision making was really poor.
Sounds
But
like
even
Logan.
at the weekend, I think he wasn't holding on to it for ridiculous lengths of time. He was trying to make that quick action, hit a shot quickly. Obviously, his sitter that he missed was probably part of that, but I think stuff like that really, really helps, and people on the outside don't realise how big a deal that is for a player that's come from abroad, left their home country, having to speak another language, to have someone that can talk to them like that. I think it's really, really good.
Aberdeen continue their recent resurgence as well with a very comfortable win at home to fellow Chicters Ross County. I have to admit, I don't like saying it, but Aberdeen have improved, although they did get their standard 2-0 loss at Tynecastle. That fixture always bemuses me because the home team always win it. But that was actually a very good performance from Hearts, but like I said earlier, it kind of papered over the cracks. But enough about Hearts, on to Aberdeen. They appear to have turned a bit of a corner recently.
I think Thursday night, despite getting beat, obviously nobody wants to get beat, but playing a team like Eintracht Frankfurt and only going and losing 2-1, it's a decent result for Aberdeen, and it shows that they can compete against the bigger sides in their group. As for Sunday's result, 4-0, brilliant, clean sheet, 4 goals. Barry Robson has came under criticism. Obviously, as you said, they got beat at Tynecastle when they've not started the league season well at all. So hopefully this gives them a bit of confidence, because Hibs are playing well. Hearts, they've won quite a few games, lost quite a few games, are a bit iffy at the moment. But St Mirren are the team that I think they need to. Hibs, St Mirren, and Aberdeen for third at the moment. Hearts just need to get their act together to try and get back in that race, but wouldn't rule out Motherwell as well. Kettlewell's record for Park's really good as well, so should be an interesting watch. But Aberdeen, good to see them back to winning ways in the league.
I think the positive thing for Aberdeen fans will be if you look at the fixture list in October, Hibs and Hearts have really, really tricky fixtures. Obviously playing the Edinburgh Derby, both teams playing Celtic and Rangers, and it looks like Aberdeen don't have, bar possibly Kilmarnock away. Obviously that would be tricky.
Killarney is always a tricky one,
but the
especially
other
this season, I'd say.
are should be 3 pointers for them, and in a month's time everything could change, and you never know what will happen. If Hearts beat Hibs, for example, because they could be in League 2 and Hibs could be winning the league and Hearts would still beat us in a cup. But Hearts could beat Hibs, and you don't know, the team might react very badly to that. Hearts might react very well to that. Aberdeen might not pick up the points they should, but they probably will, let's be real. So if it goes into next month, Aberdeen, I think, will probably be the most likely to finish third.
As for the Scottish Championship, Dundee United are the new league leaders. Chris Mockery with a 91st minute goal, and it was one of the worst, I don't even think you can call it a finish, but goal nonetheless to put them top of the league against struggling Inverness, who now have a new manager, Duncan Ferguson, former Forest Green and Everton, you could call caretaker manager. Boys, what's your thoughts on Duncan Ferguson getting that job?
Hello, Inverness. It's big Dunc for Everton here. I hear you're bottom of the Championship. Can't be having that, mate.
I was so confused on what you were doing there. I was like, what is he going for?
Yes.
Alan Boy's at the door.
Yeah, so Duncan Ferguson, it is a bit of a strange appointment from Inverness. Whether it's a good one or not, we'll see. But certainly a good pedigree as a coach at Everton. Ancelotti rated him highly and offered him a job at Real Madrid, and now a couple of years later he's in the Highlands. So
what a fall from grace!
Fall from grace, yeah. So we'll need to see how he does. Obviously, he's a brilliant character, and one that when he was Everton manager, you could see he's quite a fiery personality on the touchline. So no doubt we'll see some.
I genuinely think they've brought him in to just be the guy who will walk into the changing room, and if folk aren't pulling their weight, getting a bit of scruff in the neck, like, you'll not have that in my team. Like, genuinely, that sort of character. I think with Inverness, obviously the morale's struggling. They're rock bottom of the Championship, in real danger of going to the seaside leagues. I genuinely think that. The Inverness made a Scottish Cup final last season, despite the fact they've struggled in the Championship for years. Yeah. They are too big a club, I feel, to be floundering around the relegation zone of the second tier. And Big Dunc, I reckon he'll just be the sort of guy who'll give them a rocket and basically scare them, I think, into getting back up that table.
The issue is that can go two ways. That can either work really well and the players will be all for them, or they might not react to it positively and they could plummet even more if they're not buying into it. I think as well, like I was saying before with Bew, he is a personality, isn't he, Duncan Ferguson? It will bring eyes onto Inverness, and it will bring eyes onto that league more. The
announcement tweet was like skyrocketing in popularity as soon as it went up, and so many Everton fans were jumping on it. So I reckon there's going to be a lot of sudden interest in the Scottish Highlands from Merseyside, which is a sentence I never thought I'd be saying in my life. But for good or for bad, we don't know how it's going to pan out. But Duncan Ferguson's certainly an eye-catching appointment. He'll just be glad he's not going to any vegan burgers anymore.
You mentioned personalities there. Duncan Ferguson's first trip next Saturday. Gayfield, Dick Campbell versus Duncan Ferguson.
That's a touchline battle for the ages, I think.
We'll see what drama comes, and we'll probably talk about it next week. Probably some dodgy red card, and then hopefully maybe a scrap on the touchline. You never know. But
is that game on TV?
No, it'll just be a Saturday 3 o'clock.
Honestly, imagine the viewing figures for BBC Scotland if that game was televised. I cannot wait. I'll be waiting on YouTube with bated breath for both of the post-match interviews. They'll be incredible.
Dundee United are top of the Championship due to Airdrieonians beating Raith Rovers on Saturday. Raith Rovers were undefeated until that point, but Airdrieonians beat them 1-0 at Excelsior Stadium, I think it's called now. I don't know, they've had about 4 different names for that ground. So, but Airdrie, good football inside under Rhys McCabe, and obviously Rhys McCabe's the youngest manager in Scotland. Have you been impressed with him so far, and how far do you think he can go as a manager?
I've been very impressed. Obviously, Airdrie got promoted from League One last season, ending their 10-year exile in Scottish football's third tier. I did see them play a number of times last year against Edinburgh City, or the artists formerly known as FC Edinburgh, if I want to be technical about it. I mean, well, ignoring the 6-0 demolition that got handed out to them in the opening weeks of last season, Airdrie did impress me when we played them, even though we lost our 100% record against the Diamonds in the final game of last season. It was clear to see, despite losing most of the time when I saw them, that Airdrie are a very good footballing side. At the start, I think there was frustrations about them trying to play too much football, if that makes sense. A lot of doubters saying, oh, you can't do this with that level of football, these players, this and that. But this is now proving that if you give it time and you want to implement a good style of football at a lower league side, it can work and it can get results. Rhys McCabe, obviously player manager. It's a bit of an interesting concept. I have to admit, the first time I was at an Airdrie game last year and heard the players going, Gaffer, Gaffer, when they had the ball in his own box, I did have to stop myself from bursting out laughing, to be honest. But after you get used to that, you just realise that Airdrie are a very good footballing side, and I reckon they could push for the playoffs in the Championship this season, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think when you think about how good a job Rhys McCabe's done, when Lee Johnson sacked from Hibs, I know there was never really a serious element that he was going to get the job, but I saw a good few amount of people saying that Hibs should take a punt on Rhys McCabe. Not that I don't agree with that, because I don't think he's currently at that point in his career, but that just shows how well he's done.
I think to get to that point in management, he's got to stop as a player. I think to go any higher than the Championship, he'll have to probably stop. Not only because, well, is he good enough to... Rhys McCabe's a good player, but is he good enough to play week in, week out in the Premiership? As an option off the bench, maybe. But when you're managing in the Premiership, it's got to be, I think, just management. He is still young, and he probably still does want to play. But whether he wants to move on from Airdrie, he's got to make that tough decision. Whether he gets offered either Scottish Premiership or down south. Moving on to the Pars, the topic I like to talk the most about. A comfortable 3-1 win over Greenock Morton. Probably should have been more and should have been out of sight. 2-0 up in the first half. Craig Whiting and Lewis McCann with the goals. Lewis McCann, I don't know if you've seen it, boys, with an absolute rocket 30 yards out, hit the crossbar, which would have probably been our goal of the season.
His free kick?
That was a Hampden.
That was at Hampden the week before. Don't even get me started on that.
Goal of the season contenders.
Yeah, just Lewis McCann's, probably Lewis McCann's show all season. Yeah, so 2-0 up in the first half. Probably could have killed it off in the second. Morton got a goal back through Robbie Crawford, and there was a bit of pressure there. But Michael O'Halloran, who has been superb over the last two games, really come on to a game, gave us the 3-1 victory. Stephen, you've seen some of the Pars this season. Not the best start, but they got a good win on the opening day against Airdrie. Draws at Tannadice, unlucky not to win that day. A draw in Inverness and a defeat against Raith Rovers. But now the last two games, they seem to be right up there for the playoff hunt.
I think it's always going to be tricky when they got the injuries that they did to key players like Kane Ritchie Hosler and Matty Todd. But they are in it. They're going to be going for it. I think it was going to be a challenge when they came up because they're a good football inside, but you didn't know whether it was going to work in the Championship. You didn't know whether they were going to go and win a few games or they could easily have lost a few, and you'd be sitting there going, why have they not signed more players? Blah, blah, blah. They're not fit for it. But I think as you look at it right now, by the end of the season, they should be challenging, if not in the playoffs.
The one thing McPake's added to the squad is a lot of pace. The likes of Ben Summers, who on Saturday was incredible. Owen Moffat on loan for Blackpool, ex-Celtic youth. Alex Jakubiak, who played his second game on Saturday.
He's a good signing, very good signing.
If he can stay fit, he'll bag in plenty in that league.
And even Josh Edwards, who, in my opinion, he's the best left back in that league.
I thought you were going to say Scotland.
No.
That's a bit of a step too far. It's obviously Alex Cochrane.
But the thing about Dunfermline at the moment is they have got the injuries, but they're still getting results, which is the key thing, I think. Once I was saying to somebody on Saturday, once those players come back, we're going to have a frightening squad. Like, people talk about Raith Rovers attacking options.
Very, very good, might I add. I've watched a few Wraith Rovers games in the last couple of years, and off the top of my head, Louis Vaughan and Jamie Gullen, frightening. And Vaughan's been on some form. Obviously, he's had his injury troubles in the past, and it's now 4 times he's done his knee ligaments, which is incredible for him to even walk again after that, let alone play in professional football. But as he comes into his testimonial year, Vaughan's been banging in the goals. He's been a clutch player, I'd say, for Wraith Rovers. Certainly in the last few weeks, his name's been up on the score sheet a few times. And I know it's the cliche with Louis Vaughan, but if Rovers can keep him fit and firing, as well as obviously like Jamie Gullen, and Rovers have recruited well in the summer, I feel they've got another squad that I feel is more than capable of challenging for the playoff spot. I mean, they're near top of the league just now, aren't they?
Yeah, second place.
Exactly. It's a long season to go. And obviously they've got the Inverness curse off their back finally with a last-minute winner. But yeah, I've been very impressed with the Rovers start so far. I reckon it could get tasty. Obviously United are favourites to run away with the league, but it could get to a point where it's Rovers and Pars going for the top of the Scottish Championship, which would be very exciting indeed.
Yeah, I think one thing I was surprised when Wraith Rovers played Dunfermline is they didn't start Vaughan, they didn't start Easton, and they didn't start Gillen. They showed a different side to them that what they had showed in the cup games and in the starting league games. They showed that defensive side that they kind of sat in and let Dunfermline play. They got their goal early in the first half, which was a shocker, by the way. But Dunfermline dominated the whole game. Wraith Rovers defensively were superb on that day and got the 3 points. And they've shown it can kind of do both sides now, which, as a Dunfermline fan, doesn't make me confident.
Exactly. I mean, Wraith Rovers, certainly, I'd say since I was watching them play Hearts in the COVID Championship season, you noticed that they were a side that had a lot of attacking firepower, but defensively they could be a bit slack. But in the last few years, they've obviously steadily improved, and now, as you've said, they can do the ugly side of the game. They can break forward, and they're frightening on the attack. But they're also a solid defensive unit now, and I feel like obviously I'd say it's a pretty exciting time to be a Rovers fan just now. They've got fresh investment in the club. You know, there's like a real feel-good factor around Starks Park just now, and I think that the team's improved defensive stability is cause for optimism for the Rovers faithful to, who knows, maybe finally get that elusive promotion to the Scottish Premiership.
Hopefully not. One team that started well but are now leaking goals is Queen's Park. A 5-2 defeat on Friday night. The week before, 2-0 loss to Dunfermline at Hampden. Boys, I just wanted to ask you about, obviously, the Hampden and Lesser Hampden situation with Queen's Park. What's your thoughts on, obviously, Lesser Hampden and then Queen's Park going to play at Hampden for some league games this season as well?
It's actually for all the games for the rest of the season.
All the games?
They've agreed a deal to have Hampden as their home ground for the rest of the season, so Lesser Hampden, it's not fit for purpose. No, certainly not. It's just a glorified training ground.
Yeah, exactly. It's a training pitch.
Bit of a shambles then, because obviously you've seen the stands and the pitch is brilliant at Lesser Hampden. Obviously Scotland national team training there, but obviously players want to play at Hampden possibly, but they've built that facility for Queen's Park and
they sold Hampden to the SFA for, what was it, £5 million?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. And the sole plan was to play at Lesser Hampden initially, and they played away they played it, where was it last year? Stennismuir last year. Partick Thistle the year before.
And Falkirk the year before that.
Yeah, so they've had this plan in place for years to eventually play at Lesser Hampden, and now that it's done, or apparently...
Doesn't it look done to me, but now that it's open for business, shall we say, they played from the top of my head, 2-3 games there, and now they're just back-to-back Hampden. Like, from a personal perspective, I think that Queen's Park kind of backed themselves into a corner by making Lesser Hampden the way it is. I mean, I'm wanting to talk about stadiums not being fit for purpose. I've got to Meadowbank every other week. But that's a whole different kettle of fish. That's the council being incompetent. Queen's Park, on the other hand, that stadium is built for them, but in the time they spent away from the Hampdens, shall we say, they went from League 2 to the brink of the Premiership. They've outgrown their ground without playing at it once.
I know, imagine they got promoted and had to play at Lesser Hampden.
I think that would be a good thing if they got promoted to the Premiership. They play Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs at Hampden. They get in the big crowds, get in the money. It's a good idea.
Would it be a big crowd though?
Yeah, I think they would.
Really?
Novelty factor, certainly. You're telling me
big crowd for Queen's Park numbers, but I'm talking like Hibs fans, Hearts fans going through it.
Oh,
Hibs
yeah,
fans
yeah, yeah.
struggle a lot, even for like a cup semi-final.
Stephen, I don't want to hear any talk for you about selling hand tickets. Big teams manage it, no bother.
Yeah.
Moving on to a brief mention for League One. The 5:30 kick-off on Saturday night was Falkirk versus Kelty Hearts at New Central Park in Falkirk. I was at the game and Falkirk were nothing short of superb, to be honest. As much as I hate to say it, ruthless in attack, and they won by 5-1.
Fantastic scoreline.
Not biting.
I'll catch you at one of these days.
Aaron, you've watched a bit of League One this season, obviously with being an Edinburgh City fan. What's your thoughts on the league and who do you think? I think the top two, obviously, favourites are Falkirk and Hamilton Accies. In my opinion, I think Falkirk will go, as much as I don't want them to, I think I have to watch them on Saturday. I've got a mate that's a Falkirk fan and he says they've been really good. I wasn't so sure after watching them. They are. So, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, Falkirk are a very good side. Obviously, I watched them play at Meadowbank a couple of weeks ago. Alfredo Aguirre, as much as he loves a dive, he's clearly a very talented footballer. He's started the season well. I know a few folk listening to this who'll be rolling about laughing at my criticism of his antics, but he's on the floor all the time. But clearly, they've got a very talented squad. Callum Morrison, far too good for League One. I'm very surprised he's stayed at Falkirk for the length of time he has. Obviously, he's settled at the club, I understand that. But a player of his quality really shouldn't be hanging about in League One for, 3 full seasons he's been there since he left Hearts. I certainly think that a player of his standards should not be playing that level of football. They've obviously made a few decent signings in the summer, but yeah, surely it's this year a bust for Falkirk. Well, not bust, but Hamilton Accies are obviously going to be very tough competition. Side coming down from the Championship last year, but again, it's been a while since Hamilton have been at this level of football, but you'd argue that they're too good a squad to be in League One as well.
I think one crucial signing for Falkirk has been Brad Spencer from Rafe Rovers. Same with Tom Lang from Rafe Rovers. Don't even bother singing the song here.
It's awful. I don't like it.
So they two boys that have came
Tom
in.
Lang, you
No,
are beautiful.
no,
That's so bad it's good.
No. Hamilton Accies have recruited well as well. I think they've brought in Jamie Burr-Jonas from Kelty, who I know well as a player. Kevin O'Hara from Dunfermline, Kyle McDonald from Dunfermline. So I think they've brought in players who trusted in League One. They've been there, won the league, or are proven in that league, and they're going to try and push to obviously get promotion as well.
The last thing Hamilton need is to become a Falkirk. Spend 3-4 years down in League One, because for whatever reason Falkirk just can't get out of League One, and Hamilton will be looking at that and thinking, nah, didn't want it.
A brief mention for Berwick Rangers boys. Obviously the news came out yesterday that they're in a bit of financial bother, a lot of money in debt. They were kind of relying on a Scottish Cup run to save them, basically. Unfortunately going out at the weekend there. Unfortunate result against East Kilbride. But Aaron, what was your thoughts on Berwick?
When I saw the statement on Berwick, I was thinking, financial update. This it's never really good news. It's like a club statement, finances, and that's it. That's never normally a great sign. But when I read the article, I was kind of thinking, what are you up to? Because they're on about how they want to be really well prepared for a Scottish Cup tie against East Kilbride. So they've booked the players like a 5-star hotel. They've basically talked about how they've managed to spend an absolute shed load of money to prepare the players for this massive Scottish Cup tie, basically making it again win or bust, and then they've been demolished off one of the Lowland League's best sides. Obviously Berwick have been out of the SPFL for a number of years now, but they've always kind of been sustainably run, I've thought, so it did surprise me to see just how much trouble they're really in. But in my opinion, I understand it's a big game, but talking so openly about how they've threw loads of money at the Scottish Cup tie because it could get them a great bit of revenue and then get him hammered. It just bewilders me how they can just afford, or can't afford, if you will, to throw away that sort of money on a one-off game.
Yeah, I seen Liam Buchanan's Twitter, I think it was last night. I think he was a bit frustrated, obviously, that scoring loads of goals for them and doing really well for them, that he was a bit frustrated that obviously he didn't get to continue there. And I mean, all the players need to find a new club now, so we wish all Berwick Rangers all the best.
Michael Travis, if you're listening, please come home. I miss you.
I'm going to presume he used to play for Edinburgh.
He did indeed. Promotion winner.
Perfect. Just brief mention, guys. Premier League at the weekend. Newcastle United 8-0 win against Sheffield United. What was your thoughts on that? 8 different scorers as well.
Has that ever happened in history before?
Liverpool did it first.
8 different
You're
scorers.
insufferable.
9 different.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
But people seem to think that football started when the Premier League started. So
Very true,
apparently people
very
don't
true.
think that Liverpool did it, but they did.
But it doesn't bother you at all.
Doesn't
Does
bother
not get under your skin.
Doesn't sound like it
slightest.
bothers you
What?
at all about.
About what?
Yeah, he's raging. He's
I'm a
fuming.
raging.
Steam coming
Liverpool
out of his
second
ears.
top of the league.
Man, who's top though?
I mean, Arsenal's 1 year of challenging's over. We're back. It's fine.
Yeah, we can all agree that Arsenal can.
City pool.
Stay
City
far
pool
away as
era's
possible.
starting again. As Ten Hag
Honestly.
said, era's come to an end, but starting back up again.
Honestly, these Premier League fans. Ugh.
So guys, thanks for joining us on the second episode of the Across the Forth. This one obviously is just audio only and probably sounding much better for you guys listening at home. Thanks for watching, Stephen.
Watching,
Aaron.
there's no camera yet.
Listening, sorry.
That's Marlene anyway.
Thanks for listening, guys. Aaron, Stephen, do you want to say anything else?
Anything else?
Cheers, thank
That
you.
is awful bad.
Thank you very much, guys, for listening, and hopefully next time we come back on, I'll not be as despondent with my football team. All the best, trips. Take care, and you'll hear from us again very soon. But until then, take care, and bye for now.
Thanks.
Cheers.